This video in one clean sweep. Both of my I am shooting from my apartment. Both my kids are home with my wife. They're not exactly in good moods. My kids. My wife's always chipper. And it's not like I'm shooting from some giant house. I mean, I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 of us with like paper thin walls. So I'll try to get through this without them screaming. But if there's some editing, usually I don't have to do that. But if I do, I apologize in advance. Now, in this video, I'm going to touch on an email that came in from a gentleman who didn't think it was good enough, but if I felt like it was, I should share it. And it's great. So, obviously, he's just being hard on himself. The other thing is that somebody emailed me asking me to do kind of like a small series of inspirational stories that I've come across doing this. And the thing I like about this is they asked me to share my favorite recovery story that I've come across, the most intense, the saddest, things like that. And the reason I like this is because I have come across some incredible people, some heartbreaking things, some very motivating things, and I think each one of them has their respective spot in the reality of addiction. So I am going to share one of those stories today, and it will be the most intense story that I was a part of. Then I'll get to that later. So for the email, it says, my name is Josh and I'm from Seattle. I've been addicted to Vicodin, Oxys, and all crap for 5 years. I am now 30 years old. Throughout my active using time, I've lost my wife, who got so fed up with me after trying to help me quit that she left. I've lost very good jobs and friendships. What's funny is that a lot of people told me I had a problem, and I also admitted it, but I never took the proper care of the problem. Just a few months ago, I hit my rock bottom when I started pawning things from the place where I was living at, and also going to my parents' house, who thankfully still love me and support me, and started taking their things too. I remember one day I was so desperate for money that I took my mother's wedding and engagement rings and pawned them. Thank God I was able to get the stuff out with some help. After that, I called my best friend, who lives in another state, and explained the situation to him, and he kindly accepted me into his home. Now, this was back in February. I stayed with him for a week. He lives in the countryside in Idaho, a really nice, quiet place. I got clean during that week and went back to Seattle thinking I was okay. But again, I didn't take the proper care of the problem, going to meetings, etc. 2 days after I got back, I relapsed. And you know very well that when you do relapse, you pick up from where you left off. Needless to say, my parents took the key away from me to their place, and I had to leave the place I was renting since I had no money and I wanted to die. I called my friend again, and he took me again as well. I owe him my life too. And I've been living with him for a month and a half now. This is the cleanest I've been in 5 years. I feel amazing. I've always been a person who's great at sports and at anything I try, and that's what I'm doing now, working and keeping myself occupied playing sports, reading, watching your videos, which, by the way, have saved my life besides my best friend. The pills, like you say, strip your soul away, and you become a monster that controls your life and destroys it. I've deleted the contact's phone number, and I've changed mine too. I never had friends I used with, so I'm good on that side. But I know eventually I'm going to have to go back to Seattle and confront the things I did over there. I saw in one of your emails that you said that after you got out of rehab, you went to live with your dad for almost a year. I feel like I'm strong enough to go back and start working or moving on with my life. But I wanted to ask you what your thoughts on me going back after having this clean time. On a side note, what helped me a lot was moving away for a while. Also, I try to use the withdrawals as a motivation not to use. Withdrawals suck, and I don't want to go through them again. I believe in a higher power, and I communicate with him every day. My pause are starting to go away slowly. I still have some days where I feel anxious and have some insomnia, but I think about all the positive things that I can do now that I'm clean and sober. That, along with my faith and watching your videos, are a great recipe for staying sober. P.S. My favorite video that changed my thinking and helped me was the one titled Home Remedies for Withdrawal. It's motivating as hell, and everything you say there is true. Once you recover from drugs, you can do just about anything you put your mind to. Josh. That's a great email, Josh. Thank you. Now, the thing about moving away, it is incredible to have the opportunity to pack up and leave all your triggers behind. Well, majority of them. The issue is most people can't do that. But since you did, my thoughts are you are the only person who knows deep down if you're ready to go back. The way I was lucky because my father lived far enough away that I was out of the scene, didn't see anybody, but close enough for me to go back if I needed to. It was only about 30 minutes up the road. But 30 minutes up the road is, I mean, when you're not driving every day, it's a whole nother world, especially in Jersey. Everything's so compact. You don't really have to leave your general area because everything's always right there. That's the way my town is and surrounding towns. So being 30 minutes away is, you're just as good as being, 2 hours away. But what was good for me was that I was able to, when I started getting stronger, drive into that town. Just drive around, look around at things. I would go to the Home Depot, drive by the Home Depot, and that was a huge trigger for me because I used to use and sell in that parking lot. So I would drive by it, and you get your body temperature would start picking up, and then I leave and I go back. And it was like I was testing myself. I knew I wasn't going to do anything stupid, but I wanted to see how far I can go, and I would do that over, I don't know if it was a year. I don't even remember how long it was now because it was almost 7 years ago. But it was a long time I lived with him. So, I mean, deep down, you're the one that knows if you're strong enough to go back. And please, your friend sounds like a really, really good friend. Okay, you owe him a lot. But make sure that when you tell him you're leaving, ask him. He's already given you so much, but say, please, if I go back and things aren't okay and I feel uncomfortable, can I come back here for a little bit longer? Try to keep that door open, because if you try to make it seem like you don't need to go back there and everything's fine, and you do go back to Seattle and things aren't okay, you might have a problem mentally asking for help from him a third time. And you might end up doing something stupid because you'd rather, I don't know, maybe you won't, but just leave that door open with him, okay, because he sounds like a really good dude. Now, so thank you for the email. It's kick-ass. Great story. I don't even know why you didn't want me to share it. It wasn't why you didn't want me to share it, but you weren't sure if I should share it. And it's great, man. It's your last paragraph is very motivating. Now, so like I mentioned earlier in the video, someone emailed me and asked me about different stories that I could share that affected me or that were, in different categories. And tonight what I'm going to talk about is a very intense story that is still the most intense experience I've ever had doing what I do. And what happened was that I've been talking with this gentleman probably going on 2 or 3 weeks. All right, and at this point we were talking on the phone. I told him that if he was going, and he was clean, but he was battling hard. I mean, he had triggers all around him. A lot of his friends lived very close. He lived in a city atmosphere, so they were around all the time. They were still using. He was having a very hard time. So I told him, whenever you feel like you're going to do something stupid, call me. Okay, just call me. We'll talk. Hopefully I can get you off a ledge. I don't have any magic tips or anything that's going to get you out of the situation, but I can talk to you and hopefully you'll make the right one. All right? And what happened was, this is crazy. He was put in a very bad situation where a friend of his was on his way to his apartment, and that friend was going to get stuff. All right? He needed a ride to go somewhere else, but he knew that this guy, his buddy who was driving, needed to go somewhere first, but he needed that ride desperately. And it was one of those things where he really needed to go. And if he didn't go, he can get in trouble. So he called me and put me in a very tough situation because I knew he needed to go somewhere for legal issues. Okay? And if he didn't go, he could get in trouble legally. But if he did go with this kid, he was going to use. So he calls me. We're on the phone. I know his friend's on his way there, so we have a very small amount of time for him to make a decision. And we're weighing the options here, and I said, listen, if I were you, I would rather sit 2 or 3 days in jail, get out, and be clean. If you go with this kid, you're not going to go to that anyway, because you're going to go get high, and you're going to be in a shit ton more trouble, because who knows when you're ever going to show up back at that place for the legal issues ever again. And if you do, you're going to piss hot. So I said, whatever you do, don't get in the car with this kid. Okay? Try to find another ride from somebody else if you can. If not, make a phone call to that person that you're supposed to meet with. Non-stop. Call. And the next time you could possibly get in there, go. If they lock you up, they lock you up. To me, it was a no-brainer. But I can't tell people what to do, especially for legal issues. I mean, if I tell you to do something and something happens to you, that's bad. So the direct opposite happened. This kid didn't get in a car with his friend. His friend ended up going, it's crazy. This kid he didn't get in a car, and his friend went and got killed in a bad transaction. So, man, that's intense. That's something that, he made a decision in his life that he didn't go with him. And if he would have went with him, who knows what would have happened. Maybe his friend, maybe they would have fought off the kid. I don't know. But the bottom line was that kid passed away in a bad drug transaction. The kid got shot, or he didn't really go over specifics with me, but I know that the kid passed away in that transaction, and he's still alive. Okay. Now, like I said, the thing that weighed on my mind a little bit, I didn't say anything to him, was, well, maybe if he did go, maybe they would have been able to fight the kid off, and his friend would be alive. But when it comes down to it, you can't look at it that way, because the bottom line was that he didn't get into the actual car, he didn't go for the transaction, and he's still alive. So I have a feeling. So that's what happened. He's still clean, by the way. He moved out of the city, doing really well. I talk to him maybe like once every 3 months. He's moved on with his life, but that had a huge impact on his life. That was it. He was done. He didn't want any part of that lifestyle anymore. He did what he had to do to move away and start his life over. But I have a feeling that these stories are going to be good for the channel. They might weigh on me a little bit, because there's a lot of intense stuff. There are some really motivating stuff that I'm going to share with you that I won't get like a little girl. But there's so many aspects to addiction. There's so many parts to it that you can't hide certain aspects of it. There's some really, really ugly shit that happens. We all know that. And there's some beautiful stuff. But all that stuff in between is all part of it too. All right, so I'll share. I'm actually going to email the person back and ask for more specifics, because she gave me, I think it was like four like intense. We'll go over it, but I want to see if she can break it down to more specifics. I have so many stories that pop in my head for certain things. That one was a no-brainer, because that was one of the most intense things that I've ever been a part of. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share stories, do what we've been doing normally, and then I'm going to add this little series in for a couple days, or as long as she can come up with ideas. All right, so leave some comments below. If you have some stories you'd like to share with me that I can share with everybody else, email me at ryan@compsupport.com. In the subject line, put YouTube story, my story. Let me know if you want to use your first or last name or stay anonymous. Continue watching, leave some comments, leave some advice, and check out some more videos. Thanks.